And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success with myself and Robert Watson. We are here this morning talking about the book, R is Victorious. We're getting towards the end there. Go get your copy on Amazon. Check it out. You can go through all the old episodes. We've talked about every chapter in the book so far, and we just keep on moving, and we're getting close to the end. So we'll have to figure out what we're going to do after that. What's going on, Robert?
Next book.
Yeah, the next book.
It's Wednesday, and I'm just reminded of the quote on the front of the chapter: "Rule your mind, or it will rule you."
Isn't that the truth?
So this chapter is kind of interesting because this was one of those events. I was at a presentation in LA, and I spent the night at the Peninsula Hotel, and they have a real nice little bar. And I'd walked in the bar, I'd sat down and not really paying much attention. And pretty soon there was this incredibly good looking blonde sitting next to me chatting. And, you know, we had that connection and all that kind of thing. But what had happened was a couple of weeks before that, I had started dating someone in Houston. We had made no formal commitments, no nothing, but I had started dating somebody. And so I was sitting there weighing my options, right? Like I hadn't made any formal commitment to her, but yet again, I mean, the temptation in front of me was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's always one of those things where you just kind of wonder what could be.
Yeah. And you know, because that's the one thing about being on the road, right? You're away from home, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, no, that's not a good choice. Not a good choice for me. But that's the consciousness of growing older and more mature is making good decisions when you are really, really tempted, right? Whether it's food, whether it's, listen, I'm just going to go mess off instead of doing what I need to be doing at the house. I'm just going to go sit and watch a TV program or whatever. And the temptation to do what we know is not productive is pretty high.
Yeah.
Right. And there's tons of research into the concept of willpower, right? And that it is not like this force that you can use, you know, willy-nilly all day long, that you actually, they look at it and you have a supply of it, right?
Right.
And let's say you have 0 to 10, like gas tank. Well, if you use a lot of that in the morning, for example, you know, I run first thing in the morning. If it takes willpower to run first thing in the morning, guess what happens? I have less willpower as the day goes along, right?
Yep.
And you know how that feels, man. When people push, for example, their workouts to the afternoon, you know how many times that gets sidetracked by, I'm tired, there's other things going on. So I've always kind of believed that you front load the important things in your day, whatever they may be, and you get them done. And that way, if the rest of your day, for lack of a better word, goes to crap, right?
Yeah.
You've accomplished the major things that you need to do, and you can just let it go off the rails, because you know, with kids and stuff, family, things go off the rails.
Oh yeah. It's amazing because what'll happen is you get lost in it. Like just like you said, you know, you start to, well, this was a pain in the ass, or this was, you know, it's like my kid. It's like my son sleeping. It's the same situation. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep very well. This podcast, I want to come out here and do this, but I need to sleep. Right. And so I'm just going to pass that off, and I'm just going to go do this because I need to. You know, it's like, it's easy to get distracted in whatever you're doing and to spend so much time on something that you don't think you need to spend that much time on. And then you go, well, you know what, that took more than what I thought. And so I'm just going to skip on this today. Like, I'm not going to work out today because I had to do this or I had to do that. And yeah, that's why we're here in the morning.
You know, exactly. There was this very, very popular book by James Clear called Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a way of, you know, reinforcing willpower, right?
Yep.
And saying that, you know, I want to watch this show, right, on TV that makes me happy to watch this show. Well, watch the show right here on the treadmill, right?
Yep.
Combine things together that are pleasurable. And I talk to friends all the time about what are called hot positives and hot negatives.
Hmm.
These are things that are like triggers for your or hot negatives. Well,
Yeah.
hot positives are the things you really, really like to do. This is like, for example, if your big deal is, I really like going out back and grilling,
Hmm.
right? That's my hot positive. If I get a chance to, whatever it may be, you need to couple together the hot positives and the hot negatives, and you need to make sure your day is balanced, because if not, you'll burn out. If all you're doing during the day is doing stuff you have to do, you know how that feels at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, it gets super old. It's like it's to the point where it's like, oh, and that's how work gets. But it's funny how when there's a reward for what you're doing, like you figure out a way to continue to do it, and when there's no reward, then it doesn't. And that's how, like, for my job, it's like if I get this done, then I get paid. If I don't do this,
Yeah.
then I don't get paid. So the money is the reward, and that's what you search for, and you continue to keep looking for the reward that's going to give you that. I don't know. I don't even know if it's like pleasure when you get money. I guess it is probably pleasure, but it's like it provides me with something. I have to survive to do that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you've known, that anybody who's been mostly on commission knows, you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
There's no salary, or there's some base, but it's not enough to make the bills, right?
Yeah.
So you got to pick it up and you got to put it down every day and make sure that you're doing what you need to do. And there is this problem with, knowing, if I get paid 10,000 or $15,000 a month, whatever it is, and it's coming regardless of whether you work or not. That becomes one of those forces that just doesn't seem to move you forward. But if you know that your base is 2,000 and all the rest is, commission, you're like, okay, time to go to work.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Right?
even for like the hardest part for me is there is no base. Like there's nothing. So it's like there's no base. It's all commission. And if I don't work, I don't get paid. So I think that also plays in a tough part too. It's like, I get it. I understand why it makes sense. It makes sense to my employer really well, because then he doesn't have to pay me anything if I don't do anything.
Right.
But on the same token, I sure would be a lot happier knowing that I could actually maybe go on a vacation and have a little bit of money if nothing comes in. And that I think there's a part of that kind of plays into it. But I do, like, I struggle every day thinking, today I have one appointment. And if it's not a big one, then I could make it, I don't make that much money. And if it's a big one, then I will. But there's always that struggle. It's like, what can you do to make that happen? What's going on, Brenda? Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've found when I built my own businesses was because even though the business money was flowing in kind of like an annuity, if I didn't replace clients when they left, if I didn't constantly tend to the base. So even though I was on a salary, the revenue coming in and the revenue going out, I had to make absolutely sure that I was always feeding the monster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so even though I was on a salary, because the business was about me, felt like I was on commission,
Yep.
right? Because I celebrated every win, and I mourned every loss. But the idea of picking it up and putting it down every day was all about habits.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of habits did you create? And I think probably from the military, we got into this mentality of getting everything as much done, or the major training for the day done, by lunch.
Yep.
So our hard day was over.
Yep. And I've always been that kind of person too. Like, I don't know how some people do it, but they do. Like, I mean, everyone's built and wired differently. But for me, it's like, if I do it in the morning and I get it done in the morning, it's done right away. Like I'm working towards getting it done. And that's why I'd rather like take early appointments. Like I'd rather go at 8 o'clock in the morning so that I can be done by 4 o'clock. It's like getting it done, getting it out of the way, knowing that I'm accomplished something before the day's out, and then going home and being able to do whatever I want with my time,
Right. And it's weird, because when my days go off the rails, and I laugh because that's what I always call it, when the things you laid out for yourself in the afternoon do not go as advertised, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm always very, very grateful that I get all this morning stuff out of the way. As much as it is difficult, like I've got this morning, I've had to run. I've had a couple emails I've already had to do. I have this podcast. I have a breakfast at 8 o'clock. I have all these things I've got to do until I can get to about lunch. And then I have classes in the afternoon. Well, the rest of my day, I've got a lot I need to do, but we'll see whether it gets done or not. The key part was I got all the things that were necessary done by lunch.
Yep.
And it's that combination of habits that allows you to work with your temptations. The keys are you're tempted. I mean, it's a chocolate bar. It's whatever your temptation is, right? It doesn't matter. Okay. Whatever your temptation is, if you go knock out your crap and get it done and get good habits, you can give in to a little bit of that temptation, and you don't have to be using willpower 24/7 to get everything done. And a guy had told me many years ago, the easiest way to run first thing in the morning is to have all your clothing set out, have everything done, and literally do automatic pilot, right? Yeah. The only people that greet me in the morning are the two dogs, right? And they are used to my patterns, right? I get up, I give them a dog treat. They come over, they kind of interact with me, and then they go back to bed, right? And I'm like, you don't want to come run with me? And they're like, no.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing how that works. You get that, just like you said, like when I haven't done it for a while since I moved here actually. So it's been a year, but I was getting up every single morning and doing the same thing. And I would have, the nice thing is, some people like I sleep in athletic shorts and a tank top. So all I had to do was put my socks and shoes out there and I could just go work out in my pajamas. So it's kind of nice, but I made it easy that way for me. Like that's what I'm comfortable in. That's what I do. So it makes it work. So you can just go out and do it. And then the hardest part is just trying to figure out, I think I have a tougher time like navigating my 2-year-old than I do anything. And it's weird how that kind of throws everything off for me. But, we're trying to work through that. We're trying to figure out a way to make that happen. And you can still find excuses. So you have to get past that excuse. You have to be willing to make that. And that temptation is there, right? That temptation to sleep in, that temptation to, hang out on your phone, play more games, relax, unwind, drink another cup of coffee. Don't do those things that, in avoiding what you really need to get doing. And that's, I think, the tough part. It's crazy.
Yeah. I had a 3:30 wake up, which I did. And then I reset for 30 more minutes this morning. And I just said, nah, I'm getting 30 more. Why? Yep. I just need it. And fortunately, the way I plan my schedule, I've got room to do that.
Yeah.
And that's, again, the point about understanding yourself is understanding that every 3:30 in the morning wake up is not the same.
Nope.
There's days you feel like crap, right? And then there's days you're just jumping out of bed. And it's just like runs, right? You'll get into one, you'll go, oh my God, I feel so good.
Yeah.
And other mornings you're like, my legs are lead weights. And all you're thinking is, I just have to survive this run. Yeah. There's not going to be any thriving. It will be surviving. And all that generates from good habits. All that generates from understanding the temptations, like the temptation to quit, right? Yeah. The temptation to, it's just one, right? Oh, it's just one more of this. And, especially diet for me is the older I've gotten, the harder it is to get off. Yeah. Right. So, like I like chocolate. Right. Mm-hmm. So what I've gotten down to is these little bitty chocolate bars that are this big. Right.
Yep.
Why? Because you can't, the only thing you can do is open a second one. Yep. The first one's not big enough. It's like 3 bites.
Yeah.
And that's perfect. Right. You get your 3 bites and you're pushed away and you're like, oh, perfect. Because if you package your life in such a way, and that's what I call, you package your life in such a way that it works for your diet, it's fine. Because if I have to, and I used to open a big candy bar and take 1/4 of it, mm-hmm. You know how hard that is to not go back and get another quarter.
That's like the bag of chips is the same thing. Whatever. You get the little bag, and that's even the little bag anymore that costs like $3. It's still more than you need. It's still more than what it says you're supposed to have. And you're like, I'll just eat half of that now, roll the bag up, put it over there. Oh, there's
doesn't that bag talk to you? It's over in the corner going, eat me, come here. It
Yep.
really does. I
Yep.
mean,
That's
it's awful.
and that's
And see,
just it
that's
goes back to the same thing that you were talking about. You want to run in the morning, prepare yourself to do it, put your stuff out, put those things out, get them in the way. If you want to have a healthy diet, and this is what I struggle with all the time because and it's bad in my house because my wife has a sweet tooth, I have the salty tooth, and we have all this garbage sitting in our house that we shouldn't have because the kids can eat it, which I still don't think that, that's not what I think, but I end up eating it. It's there. It's like in front of you. It's, you know what? Why not? Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah, it's there. So we should eat it. And if it wasn't there, then, you've put yourself in that situation. So if you remove that item from and make it harder to get, it's funny. I was watching, I follow the Verve Pipe on TikTok, and the lead singer, Brian Vander Ark, one day he posted a TikTok video of him and he's like, it's almost that time. And he pulls out this like vault that had a bottle of whiskey in it so he could have a drink. And it had like a timer on it that was almost that time, like you've got to figure out a way to stop yourself from doing those things because some people just don't have that willpower and it's hard to maintain for a long amount of time. I don't understand how I understand it, but I don't know how you've had the willpower to run every single day for that amount of time. But it's just it's mind over matter, right?
I always say to people, it's mind over matter. And they say, what do you mean? I said, if I don't mind, it don't matter.
Right.
But yeah, you just get into whatever that groove is. But I think it's part about learning yourself, right? Learning what tempts you.
Yeah.
And then just saying, okay, I know what my temptations are. Let me get this done, then I'll just go ahead and give in to that temptation. And I always tell people you need to treat yourself well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Be kind to yourself. And the idea that you are going to eliminate temptations is crazy. And that's why people don't stay on these fad diets and things like that. That's not going to work. But what you can do is you can stack your little refrigerator, which is I call the one you keep in your bedroom, little refrigerator, with fruits, right? Vegetables, and like Philadelphia brand cream cheese or whatever it is, to be able to go ahead and when you have a snack, you go, oh, well, okay, baby carrots would kind of be good. Yeah. I mean, come on, who thinks that baby carrots is the best snack in the world? It's not. But guess what? It's good for you.
Yeah, right? And that's one of those things that I use with, I've had Jennifer Brocksterman on here a couple times, and she talked about like your kid comes up to you and says, I'm hungry, because that's what you get. You probably remember this, but my son and my daughter all the time, I'm hungry. And then now Nolan's like, I'm so hungry. And you're like, okay, dude, you're not hungry. You're just bored and you want to eat something. And she goes, when they ask you that, and this works more with the 11-year-old than it does with the 2-year-old because he can't eat an apple very well. But she's like, ask yourself, will you eat an apple? And you look at her and you go, well, okay, if you're hungry, then go eat an apple. And then the answer 50% of the time is, I'm not that hungry. And it's like, okay, well, then you're not hungry. You want to eat. It's a different story because you don't want to eat that thing that's healthy for you. Then you're not hungry. You're not starving. You're not going to die. And my daughter's always like, I'm starving. And it's like, girl, you will never starve in this house. We will always find a way to feed you. Have you starved yet? Do you even know what it's like to starve?
Well, yeah. And so I keep mandarin oranges, those little seedless oranges. I keep bananas. So when I open my refrigerator, my little refrigerator in my room, all I have is good things. Right now, there are those little bitty chocolate bars. They're over there too, right? And so, there's like 3 good things for me and 1 not so good thing for me. And so basically it's me going, okay, let me go do that. And so then that's me having a banana, me having an orange. But this is back to the temptation, right?
Yep.
I'm hungry. What do I want to eat? Well, there's something easy to eat or there's something good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's all balancing this out. And Clear was real good about that, about coupling things together. And you can do things together. For example, you can take banana and peanut butter.
Yep.
Right? Now, I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay. How about a banana and peanut butter?
Yeah.
Still get the same thing. And that's just about negotiating with yourself and getting yourself on the point where you understand yourself. And you're not hard on yourself. You're not kicking yourself like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't behave that way. No, I'm going to behave that way. So there's the thing. Let me moderate.
Yep.
Let's just work to moderate.
Yeah, Nikki's made a good point here in the chat too. It's also think about how you feel after you eat something not good for you. And it's funny because you get that way. Like you binge on something and then you're just like, you're sitting there chowing down. And then when you get done, you're like, oh, why did I do that? This was the dumbest thing I ever did. And you have to remember that feeling every time you go do something like that, because it's not a great feeling.
No, it's true. And when you eat clean, right, and then you go have like one of those high fat, high sauce kind of meals, I mean, you feel like 400 pounds.
Yep.
Right. And so I've always said, go have the meal, cut it in half, right? Yeah. Find ways to cut the portion size so that you're satiating the temptation. But
you ever notice that they make that difficult too? Like I remember back in the day, they're like, you ask them, hey, they tell you, just tell your waiter or waitress when they come over to bring you half of the meal and put the other half in a to-go bag so you can eat it, or to-go box to eat it later. And you're like, hey, can you put this in a to-go box? Can you cut half? They kind of try to talk you out of it. And it's like, that's stupid. You gotta do that. Brenda says, oh no, I ate the whole meal and suffer. But that's
so true.
It is. But that's the thing. Like, they bring you out way too much. Always. Mm-hmm. There's never just the right amount. There's always too much. And it's all about glutton. It's all about, just keep going. And they make it difficult for you to make a good choice. And so you have to make that, the decision that you're not going to allow that to happen. Like, you have to almost like cut it in half yourself and push it off to the side, and then have the willpower to not gnaw on it,
Oh yeah. And the other thing I've started doing, especially with my current girlfriend, is the idea is you can basically split a meal, right? Because neither one of you eat a lot, and just split a meal. People are thinking you're doing that for the economy. No, I'm doing that for content. There's too much food.
Yeah.
Right? We need to split this. And she even went to the point of getting one of those services that deliver food, because they get you the right portion size, right? They know that what 4 ounces of this is and 6 ounces of this is. And she's just really bad about, putting together cooking ideas in her head. So she just said, let me do this. And so she did her first one of those meals last night. And she goes, okay, that was pretty good. And she has a meal for today. She cut it in half. She has a meal for today, and she has a meal for tomorrow.
Yep. Thanks for joining us,
Really
Brenda. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to do it. I mean, you really get stuck in that, and my wife and I do that too. The problem with my wife and I is, like, we have different taste in what we want. So, like, she may want like the chicken wrap and I may want a burger, and she'll split a burger with me, but I won't split the chicken wrap with her. Like, that's the hard part, is like finding something that you both agree on when you go out to eat, because it's always too much. There's never, like, I end up eating just like, you go buy a burger or you order a burger, they give you the fries. I end up just eating the burger and maybe like 2 or 3 fries. Like, it's like, and they bring you out this plate of fries that is huge. And you're like, I don't need that much. It's like, maybe just don't get it. But then they still charge you $14 for, just the burger and no fries. It's insane.
Yeah, I had lived with my 2 sons for quite a while I was at A&M, and they would bring to-go food, and they knew where I was concerned. If they were bringing me, chicken nuggets or whatever, they knew to just bring me the chicken, and all the French fries would go to them.
Yeah,
because they knew that was my kind of thing. I'm going to pick one poison or the other, but I'm not doing both.
Yep, exactly. Life is, they've made it really tough to be healthy, because they continue to, like, bundle things that are unhealthy and stop you from doing things. And that's just the tough part. And just like you said, then you kind of get worried about like what they're judging you for. Mike Lynn says, my friend and I always share when they go out, and it's like you said, it's like you're just sharing because you're cheap or whatever, and it's like, no, that's not it. It's 100% not it. You bring out way too much stuff, and we don't need that much. And I always have the waiter or waitress always comes up and they look at me and they're like, because I didn't eat the whole thing. Are you done? And I'm like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
You brought me too much crap. Not your fault, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. So. And again, it's always back to there is this, and it's horrible for me because if you'll sit there with like fries and something like ranch dressing or something, it's just one fry, right?
Yep.
And you'll one fry that group of fries until it's half gone.
Yep, exactly.
Just one fry at a time, because the temptation is definitely there. And so managing your mindset is so key, right? Just learn yourself and don't jump all over yourself and get into this negative bend where you're kind of castigating yourself. Don't get there. Just accept yourself for what it is and say, okay, I need to work around that.
Yep. Atomic Habits is a great book. If you guys haven't checked that out, we're obviously talking about Robert's book, Ars Victorious, but this is where you get that knowledge. This is where you start to work on things and do that. And I think that if you guys are looking to create some great habits, that's a good one to check out. So, Robert's been a great conversation. I wanted to thank everyone for hanging out with us. We had an awesome chat room here at one point, having 11, 12 people there. Appreciate everyone being here, the gifts and everything that you guys do. Please make sure if you do listen to this on Apple Podcast to write a review. It is very helpful. Give us a 5-star review. If you don't like what it is, if you don't like it, let us know what you would like to see, what you think we can fix, because we always are looking for improvement and we're not afraid of a little critique. But we will be back Monday, 7:00 Eastern time. Stupid time zones. I'll say it again like I always do. I hate time zones. 7:00 Eastern time. Come hang out with us. We appreciate you all. Go get the book.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Have a wonderful week.
Yep. You too, Robert. Thank you. Appreciate you all hanging out here with us on Shaping Success. Please make sure you subscribe.